Hello, this is Freethought Forum, but a program put out by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. I'm Larry Rhodes.
And I'm Joe Barnhart, and we're here to talk to you some more. Hope you'll join us and make some phone calls to us.
We want you to know that if you don't believe in God, you're not alone. We are not afraid to say that we are atheists, and you do not have to believe in God to be a good, patriotic American, lovers of freedom or democracy. Free thought is a philosophical viewpoint that holds that opinions should be formed on the basis of science, logic, and reason, and should not be influenced by authority, tradition, or dogma. And I could also throw in superstition.
Go ahead.
Today we'll be talking about the true democratic basis of our society. And we'll be reaching back into ancient Greek for a lot of this because that's where democracy really had its roots.
Yes. In fact, we sometimes take for granted our democratic life, and we want to talk about what that means in a minute. But we build upon the shoulders of those who went before us, and our job is to try to conserve the best. So in that sense, we're all conservatives, and try to liberate it for others. In that sense, we're all liberals. And let me mention a book by a great philosopher, The Open Society and Its Enemies, which I want to talk to you about in just a minute.
Mm-hmm. Okay. September 17th of 1787, 39 drafters finished and worked up their proposed constitution and sent it along for the next step of its adoption, ratification by the states, to become the supreme law of the land. This was a first constitutional republic in the history of mankind, other than the ones that were set up like it in ancient Greece. We're going to open up the phone lines now. Please call in at 215-2288 and help us discuss the foundation of our national heritage. Joe?
The Open Society began at least with the Greeks, although you do have it in Hebrew history too. Both cultures had a multiplicity of viewpoints. And, of course, those who do the writing of the history sometimes oversimplify it. But there was a lot of different viewpoints among the early Hebrews and the early Greeks.
We're not a true democracy, are we?
Well, let's talk about a democracy. You've got at least two versions. One of which I heard in high school is the rule of the majority. Now think about this. John Stuart Mill, the famous philosopher who wrote that wonderful essay on liberty, talked about the tyranny of the majority. You can have a tyranny in democracy. How is that possible?
Tyranny of the majority over the minority.
Right, and that's why in our Constitution we have a Bill of Rights. It says they're called inalienable. That meant you can't be alienated from your rights. Not even the government, not even the majority can do that. These are part of what it means to be a person, to have these rights as a rational human being.
Right. And that's one of the reasons that I don't believe in the propositions that they pass in California and other places. This last proposition, Proposition 8, I think it was, the majority passed on the rights of the minority and tried to take away, and then succeeded in taking away the rights of homosexuals to get married to each other. And that is a tyranny of the majority. And if you extrapolate that to other things in society, you could be in real trouble.
Yeah, I'm old enough to remember when there were those who said it should be against the law to get a divorce. There are pros and cons on divorce, but it should be individuals' decisions, not the state. And we could at another section debate what is marriage. Does it include gender togetherness? What makes up a marriage? What are the ingredients of a marriage? Well, that's another topic.
One of the few known facts about marriage is that the church wasn't really interested in getting into the marriage business until just after the Middle Ages, about the 16th and 1700. It was the state. It was a state institute all that time up until then, and then once the churches started getting into morals and family values, they started taking over marriage as a ceremony that they could incorporate into the church, and it's been that way ever since.
Yeah, in a free society, people should be able to marry according to their own convictions. And where the state comes in has to do primarily with a contract. And that would mean what the two couple covenant together to do and not do, and furthermore, the rights of the children.
Today we're talking a little bit about the foundations of democracy, and there's a word that I'd like to define. We're going to be using this quite a bit on this show in the future, and it's called theists. You know what an atheist is, everybody does, but a theist is a person who believes in God, or believes in a religion of some, or follows one. It's not a word you usually hear on the street unless you're talking to another atheist. And theists often make the absurd claim about the Ten Commandments, the Bible, or Jehovah being the foundation or inspiration of the author of our rights, freedoms, and constitutional government. And this, they're no more right than they are in their geology or biology.
Yeah, most biblical scholars, I think, today know that. In fact, the notion of rights for certain people did not appear in the Hebrew Bible. On the other hand, certain rights did appear that the Puritans did away with. So what I'm saying is various cultures have wavered on this sort of thing. The notion of democracy is individuals have rights, not beliefs, not doctrines. Right. People have rights, and what they want is their doctrine. That's their business, and it's their neighbor's business to make up their minds.
What's our business, though, is when they try to rewrite history to encompass their own beliefs a lot further than they actually were in the historical times.
Yeah. I have a feeling all cultures have rewritten their story to rationalize their own present desires. If you read the Hebrew Bible, you can see this being done. Mm-hmm. I think you could make a good case that much of the early Hebrew life was polytheistic, many gods. Mm-hmm. There were also probably agnostics who simply didn't know about the gods and didn't claim to know. And there were monotheists, one God, but had different versions of that God. What a democracy ideally is the freedom of all these people to have their religious viewpoints.
Okay. I believe we have a caller.
Oh, that's great. Let's hear it.
You're on the air. May I have your name?
Uh-huh.
Go.
Go. Hello?
Rebecca.
Rebecca? Okay, do you have a question?
Well, while she's waiting, we'll go on.
I think we lost her.
That's too bad.
Okay.
In fact, you had among some of the Christians big debates about the Trinity, whether God was three persons, and whether these three persons were all co-equal, or whether one was created. And the view called Arianism, which is a view held by John Milton, the Puritan, is that Christ was not originally a God, he was created, and was the first of God's creation. And what I'm saying is there are various versions of theism.
Even Peter didn't think that Jesus was a real person. He thought he was a spirit, or that he met along the road. That he said in his work that if he were a real person, he probably would have been a rabbi. But
well, this is a big debate as to who the historical Jesus was, and we will try to get into that because some incredibly good scholars have been working on this problem. Now, there is also a view called the Manichaeans and the Zoroastrians, who held that maybe there are two gods, the God of darkness and the God of light. And then some of the monotheists came up with the notion of a Satan. in order to explain the problem of evil volcanoes and destruction.
Okay. All right, I think we got our caller back. We'll see. This is Freethought Forum. I'm Larry. May I have your name?
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Go.
May I have your name?
My name's Tracy.
Tracy, do you have a question for us?
Yes, I'm just flipping through the channels, and I came across this, and it says that y'all don't believe in God, so I'm just wondering, do y'all worship the devil, or what is this about?
Ma'am, Satan is another one of the gods in the Christian pantheon. In other words, you have Satan and Jesus and angels and cherubs and God and Yahweh. All of that is part of Christendom. They're all basically supernatural too, and we don't buy into any supernatural beliefs, so we do not worship the Satan.
Now, she has a good question. What do people believe?
Well,
now,
sure.
Among the East Tennessee rationalists, you have both atheists, agnostics, and theists. But the question is, if you don't hold to divine revelation in a scripture, what do you believe? Mm-hmm. And that's a whole program all of its own, in which we try to deal with how ethics came into being. I mean, it's a very sensible question you're raising.
A lot of people ask us, if we don't believe in God, what do we believe? And the answer is we believe just about everything else that you believe. We believe in home, family, love, humanity, love of brotherhood, all of that. We just don't have a belief in supernatural.
And we think ethics began mostly with cooperation. If you have common values, then to pursue those values, mostly you have to have cooperation. If you have cooperation, that means you have responsibilities, you have duties, and you have to tell the truth, otherwise you can't cooperate. Right. So you already have a commandment against, or a rule against lying. And you could go on and on and on. Even among animals, like wild dogs, you have a certain amount of cooperation. And so that the roots of ethics...
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
So I'm just wondering, so the people that I'm looking at on this TV right now, neither one of them, are you one of the people that's on the TV right now, or you just...
We're both on...
We're both on there. I'm the one on the right, he's on the one on the left.
Okay, so both of y'all don't believe in God?
Or
well,
vice versa.
I have a view that both atheism and some versions of theism can be held to by rational and moral people. That's my view. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Did we answer your question, ma'am?
And what I'm interested in is the common values that both theists and atheists have together. That we have a much more that draws us together rather than what separates us. Part of what we have together is the right to disagree in an agreeable manner. I'm sorry, go ahead, you have more to say. Let's hear it.
Oh, no, I was talking to somebody else in the background. I'm sorry,
Okay.
Okay.
If you have more, we'd be glad to hear from you.
All right, thank you for your call.
That's a good question. And that question is a positive question. It's easy to say what you don't believe. Like if you don't believe in, say, some version of Buddhism, well, what do you believe? And it's a fair question.
Her question was very pointed. Do you believe in the devil? And of course, we don't believe in the devil or any other supernatural being. Of course, there are atheists who do believe in supernatural things like the soul. Buddhists don't believe in a god. They don't believe that Buddha was a god, but they do believe in the reincarnation of the soul. So there are a few exceptions to that.
And I think we agree that some people play the devil, or mean as the devil is, but they're not supernatural beings. They unfortunately are part of our own species that behave this way, and we have to deal with people like that, and ideally try to make